Hey, what's up, everybody? Coming to you this morning with another 2020 Boxing Award. This award today is on the Knockout of the Year, one of my favorite ones, especially this year. There were some great knockouts. Before I jump into my top 5 on that, though, again, guys, if you could like my video, just give me the thumbs up, hit that, and then maybe subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Let's build them likes up. Again, I'm all about just getting that information out there, boxing information. I love this stuff. I'm very passionate. So if you could like the video, I'd much appreciate it. It's True Boxing. And if you want, you can try to follow me on Instagram, True_boxing. All right, so let's jump into the top 5 knockouts of the year. So again, I consider the fight itself, can be the defining thing. I know some people, it's just a flat-out knockout. How great they feel the knockout was over another knockout. Me, I'm not like that. Of course, that's part of it, but for me, it's the size of the fight. So if this year, the top 3 were 3 one-punch knockouts, like laid the guys out, knocked them out cold. Now, how did I define that? Well, it depends on how big the fight was to me, and it was splitting hairs. It was tough at the top, but I'm pretty sure on number 4 and 5, but the top 3 were splitting hairs. So let's jump into number 5, and that is Joe Smith Jr.'s 9th round TKO of Eleider Alvarez when they fought in a WBO light heavyweight final eliminator in August as they main evented an ESPN card. So, heading into this fight, Joe Smith Jr. was the underdog, pretty much. There was a 4-man box-off ordered by the WBO, basically a tournament, to determine the next WBO champion at 175 after Canelo vacated his belt following his knockout win over Sergey Kovalev. So, anyways, they went into this one. A lot of people, Joe Smith was coming off a big win over Jesse Hart, but Eleider Alvarez was coming off of a fantastic knockout of Michael Seals in January. And, he had knocked out Kovalev just a couple years before and lost the title back, but by a decision. So that was the only loss of his career, and Alvarez was pretty much the favorite heading into the box-off. And going in against Joe Smith, it just looked like skills was going to beat Joe Smith's will. Is what I thought. Alvarez, a consummate boxer, puncher, good power. I thought he was going to set up Joe Smith, and I predicted, I believe, a late knockout. But I also was saying it could go to a decision, but I didn't even think Alvarez was going to struggle to win on points. And man, did Joe Smith shut me up. He went in there and just bullied Eleider Alvarez around the ring. A lot of people, it wasn't just me. He shut a lot of people up because his will, his heart, his determination to get back in the mix of a world title. I mean, he just absolutely dominated Eleider Alvarez for 8.5 rounds, and then in the 9th round laid him out with, I believe, a left hook that sent Alvarez crashing through the ropes. And that was all she wrote for Eleider Alvarez. So Joe Smith Jr., big-time win right there, and set himself up for a world title shot, which he's getting on February 20th with that victory. So Smith over Alvarez, 9th round TKO. Number 4 goes to Anthony Joshua's 9th round knockout of Kubrat Pulev as he retained the unified heavyweight championship of the world on December 12th as they main evented an ESPN card, or a DAZN card, I'm sorry. Heading in, Joshua was the heavy favorite going in, but a lot of people, but Pulev was an experienced mandatory challenger, and there's a couple things working here. Joshua hadn't knocked anybody out in over 2 years. He hadn't. It had been since September of 2018 since he knocked out Alexander Povetkin, and Joshua, he came back and beat Andrew Ruiz in 2019 in their rematch, but it was by a decision. He fought cautiously in that fight. And, a lot of people just wanted to see how he was going to bounce back following that win over Ruiz and the 2 fights with Ruiz. And would he get careless if he got Pulev in trouble? And, he looked cautious at times in this fight, but for the most part, he broke down Pulev. But in the 3rd round, he hurt Pulev. badly. He almost stopped him in the third round, knocked him down a couple times, and and he fought cautious after. After he couldn't finish him, he fought cautious, and it looked like the fight was becoming more competitive towards the middle rounds. But around round 7 and 8, he started just landing that big uppercut, that big right uppercut. He just kept throwing it and landing solid ones. And then finally in the 9th round, one of those just laid out Pulev. But Pulev, to his credit, got up. I mean, that was a tough one, but essentially that was the knockout punch, because he got up, and what followed was your classic 1-2. Feint left to the straight right hand down the middle that dropped Pulev out, laid him out for the count, and Anthony Joshua retained his unified title with that win. So nice win, way to bounce back, way to set the knockout up. That's exactly the way Anthony Joshua has been successful, is by boxing, using his height, using his jab, using his technique to set up his knockouts. And that was just picture perfect Anthony Joshua right there. And he had the Tyson Fury fight to look forward to. Now it looks like that fight's even more possible, and a lot of people are going to be excited about it. So that was Joshua over Pulev, number 4. Again, now top 3 is splitting hairs, but number 3 goes to Jose Cepeda's 5th round knockout of Yvonne when they collided in a WBC final eliminator at 140 pounds. That's junior welterweight. Now, heading into this fight, it was a pick'em fight. It really was. They were originally supposed to fight, I believe, in July, and I think one of them tested positive. Or no, somebody pulled a got hurt. I think Barianchuk injured a rib or a muscle in his arm, something like that. And, Cepeda ended up fighting, and I was disappointed because we didn't know if this fight was going to still happen, and they got it back on for October. And again, heading in, I picked Cepeda, but only because I felt like he was the better boxer, and Barianchuk had been outboxed against Josh Taylor, and Cepeda had looked sharp outboxing, or at times outboxing Jose Ramirez in their title fight in February of 2019, and then he outboxed the boxer Jose Pedraza in September of 2019. So I felt that gave just a tiny edge to Cepeda, but with the way Barianchuk bullies people, and Cepeda not being a natural 140 pounder, he came up from 135 where he had a lot of his knockouts. It looked like the boxer in this one was Cepeda, and the puncher and the brawler was Barianchuk. And it started off that way. Barianchuk came out like a bully, and I think in the first round he put Cepeda down twice, and he just poured it on Cepeda the first couple rounds, but then Cepeda knocked him down. And in total, these guys traded 8 knockdowns in 5 fucking rounds. It was a fantastic fight, candidate for fight of the year, and they went toe to toe, right at each other, and it ended. And it ended up being 4-4 with the 8 knockdowns, and the final knockdown came in the 5th round when Cepeda landed a picture-perfect left hand down the middle over a Barianchuk who was charging right in at him. He just landed it crisp. Barianchuk fell back hard. Looked like he might have injured his knee because he fell back on his knee, and Cepeda, became the mandatory challenger for the WBC title with that win. I mean, huge win for Cepeda. And, these highlight type wins is what sears into people's minds. And that's what Cepeda got here. And he's earned himself a title shot, which will come in 2021. We don't know against who, but that was a fantastic finish and way to win. And, he was on the verge of losing. So just way to dig deep and win that fight. Jose Cepeda's 5th round knockout, Yvonne Barianchuk. Number 2, and again, we're splitting hairs. I gave it to Alexander Povetkin's 5th round knockout of Dillian White to capture the WBC interim heavyweight championship. Again, it was in the heavyweight division. You can't beat the heavyweights. Heading into this fight, Dillian White was, I believe he had taken over number 5 for me in the heavyweight division. He was right there, very solid, fearless heavyweight, willing to fight whoever. And he came in a pretty sizable favorite over Alexander Povetkin. And I didn't like how big of a favorite he was coming in. Because Povetkin, for the past, 14 years, 13, 14 years, has been a top 5 heavyweight. And although he's the 41 years old coming into the fight, he'd only lost 2 times in his career. And they were both to the top fighters in the heavyweight division. He lost to Vladimir Klitschko in 2013 by a decision where he got put down 4 times but kept getting up, and Klitschko kept holding in boxing, and won a decision. And then in 2018, when he fought Anthony Joshua, he was in that fight. That was a pretty even fight. After 6 rounds, I had it 3-3. And Joshua just landed some money punches in the 7th round, set him up for the knockout. But this guy, very, very good fighter, is Povetkin. But Dillian Whyte coming in the heavy favorite, he looked like he was proving to everybody through 4 rounds why he was the heavy favorite. In the 4th round, in the 3rd and 4th round, he really took the fight over and was boxing and beating Alexander Povetkin up. And in the 4th round, he put Povetkin down. And it looked like he was on the verge of knocking Povetkin out. Like, no doubt, he was on the verge of ending Povetkin's night. And in the 5th round, Povetkin slipped to the left and landed a money uppercut that laid out Dillian Whyte cold. Knocked him out cold, and Povetkin captured the interim heavyweight title with that win. This was a huge, huge win right here, for Povetkin. And a picture-perfect knockout. And you know what? For me, with Povetkin in his career, he's had a lot of these kind of knockouts, but they were never on a major stage in like a fight like this. It was always kind of under the radar. Over in Europe, you had to go back and watch the highlights on YouTube or something, but he never got that. In the couple times he had been showcased, he didn't win. And this was a showcase fight, main evented at the DAZN card, and he came up out of nowhere and knocked out a good heavyweight in Whyte, knocked him out cold and laid him out. And essentially, if he can beat Dillian Whyte again in their rematch in March, which I'm favoring him to do that, he's going to set himself up with maybe his final crack at something major in the heavyweight division. But, this was the kind of win he needed in his career to kind of put a signature on his career. So even if he loses to Whyte, even if he gets retired after Whyte against somebody else, Povetkin's going to be able to prove that he did, that he's still a top tier fighter. And maybe, to be honest, Povetkin might be a Hall of Famer. If you look at his resume, he might be a Hall of Famer, and this might have sealed the deal for him. But we'll see. Maybe he can build on it. But fantastic knockout. And the last thing I want to add, he did it with his opposite hand, his left hand uppercut. That's hard to do. A lot of his knockouts, he's always been a good left-handed fighter, been able to fight with his left as well. But most of his big knockouts have come with his right hand. And the fact that he knocked the guy out cold with his left hand shows you that power doesn't leave you. That you might slow down, your skills might diminish a little bit, but the power remains, and especially if you set it up. So that was boxing at its finest right there. Povetkin finishes number 2 for his 5th round knockout of Dillian Whyte in August. And now, finishing number 1, again, this was splitting hairs, but it was because of how big the fight was. It goes to Javonte Davis's 6th round knockout of Leo Santa Cruz to capture the WBA Super Championship at 130 pounds, super featherweight, and to retain the WBA regular lightweight championship, as because this fight took place technically at junior lightweight 130, both titles were allowed to go on the line in a very rare occasion there. And, heading in, Davis was the favorite coming in, but there was a couple things working against him, a few negatives working against Davis. One was how committed he was to the sport. He'd really gotten caught up with domestic issues and really that party life and not coming in on weight and fully training. It affected him the last couple years. It really did. He couldn't make weight a couple times at 130. So he moved up to 135, and then he missed weight initially for his lone fight at 135 against Yuriorkis Gamboa. He had to come back a couple hours later to make weight. So you know, the dedication, the being in shape, that was a big part of the criticism on Davis. And he was heading into the biggest fight of his career with a pretty focused fighter and always a game fighter, Leo Santa Cruz, a guy that was always willing to chuck it with you in there. Now, Santa Cruz, definitely overall the smaller man, because this guy's a 4-division world champion, you know, winning championships at 118, 122, 126, and 130. So coming into this fight, and the fact that he was able to make Davis come down to 130 to fight him, you know, there's a lot of people that thought it could go Santa Cruz's way. And if Davis even was going to knock him out, it'd be from an accumulation of power shots later on in the fight. Definitely wouldn't be a one-punch knockout. And the fight was playing itself out the way better than people expected, but not surprisingly in terms of the back and forth. Davis was pressing most of the action, but Santa Cruz was fighting really good and was backing Davis up as well, and they were going toe-to-toe. Really good action and skilled fight. And it was a good matchup of two good boxer punchers, to be honest. You know, and they were going back and forth. And through 5 rounds, Davis was winning very close fight. And, you know, in the 6th round, though, they were continuing to go at it. Davis was pressing, and Santa Cruz was up against the ropes. And this is one of the many examples of why you should not lay yourself up against the ropes, because you never know. You are a stable target when you're on the ropes. And Davis proved that with a monster left hand uppercut right up the middle that knocked out Leo Santa Cruz cold in the corner. And Javonte Davis captured the 130-pound title, retained his secondary lightweight title at 135, and secured the biggest victory of his career, stayed undefeated. He's now 24-0, 23 knockouts. It was just a monster knockout against a guy who hadn't really been hurt ever in his career. And that was another thing. It was a bigger fight than Povetkin and Dillian White. Overall, it was a bigger fight, bigger matchup. But this was part of the reason I gave this one knockout of the year, was because Dillian White had been hurt before. He'd been knocked out before by Anthony Joshua. He'd been hurt multiple times in his career. So the fact that a hard-hitting fighter, even at 41 like Povetkin, could hurt him and knock him out, not surprised there. You know, I mean, because White's been hurt before. Leo Santa Cruz had never even been hurt, let alone knocked down and put out like that. And for Javonte Davis, even though he was the bigger man, you know, to come in and lay Santa Cruz out like that was just fucking amazing. It really was. So, big time victory for Javonte Davis as he becomes wins the title at 130 and still holds his belt at 135. He absolutely deserves knockout of the year from their Showtime main event pay-per-view card that took place on Halloween night. So it was defined Halloween, scary. So go back and take a look at that scary ass knockout. That was number 1 knockout of the year. That was my 2020 boxing award for knockout of the year. And again, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. A lot more content to come. I appreciate you guys watching. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.